This week's episode of Pedal Pusher TV is brought to you by Amazon.com, GoDaddy.com, and Audible.com. It's time for Pedal Pusher TV, the show for drummers by drummers, featuring your hosts, Atlanta-based professional drummers Brian Stephens and Shannon Kori. This week's episode is sponsored by Bonzo Tune Studios, located here in Atlanta, Georgia. Bonzo Tune Studios, simply great audio. Find us on the web at bonzotunes.com. How's it going, guys? Welcome to episode number 2 of Pedal Pusher TV. I'm Brian Stephens.
I'm Shannon Kori.
And we're just a couple of workaday blue-collar drummers who happen to have a camera and some lights and an internet connection.
And a really nice studio.
Well, okay. We have a really nice studio, too. But we're just doing the kind of stuff that we normally do when we get together. Shannon lives like 10 minutes down the road, and we normally get together and have lunch and talk about drum stuff. We'll either get together here at my studio or over at your studio.
Absolutely.
We'll play some drums, talk about what we're practicing. And so we're just bringing that to you every week as a video podcast.
Sharing some knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. And the knowledge we're going to talk about this week is match grip and traditional grip. And there's a gazillion articles that I've read. There's all kinds of videos. We're going to try and give you a little bit of something different today.
Absolutely.
I've always played like a bastardized version of traditional grip.
Okay.
It's only been within the past maybe year and a half I've really been working on it. So I'm primarily a match grip player, I would say. With the exception of my jazz quartet gigs, I'm generally a match grip player. For me, it's sort of based loosely off of kind of a core style grip where it's not the Haskell hard. I call it a Haskell hard grip because that's where I first learned it. Where this is the fulcrum, where the first finger and the thumb are the fulcrum. Mine's really more like the index finger.
Sure.
Index finger, and it's this idea where you just kind of hold the stick enough that that it stays in place, and then just kind of wrap the fingers around. It really is that simple.
Yeah, it really is.
What about you? Anything that you do different?
Same kind of thing. I mean, really, it's mostly thumb and the second finger. You kind of, at this point, you leave the stance open,
right?
And you get more bounce out of your fingers, a lot more control.
I find that I over the years I've really developed more of a playing style with match grip that's a combination of the fingers and the wrist.
Yeah.
And if it's really loud, you bring the arm into it. But it really, that grip, because I'm not squeezing down right there.
Right.
And almost all the drum students I've ever had that I've seen that squeeze, all of them do the little.
They leave the thing.
The tea time. The tea time hold. We're gonna patent that.
You want to
trademark that name.
Wrap that, because you can get a lot out of these back fingers.
Yeah, there's a lot, and they're because the fingers are directly on the stick. When you're playing really low, like when I'm playing low, I'm using just fingers pretty much. The wrist is just getting out of the way of the stick.
Right.
And the fingers are a lot more sensitive to what's happening.
Yeah, because if you were just trying to do it with your first finger with the squeeze of death grip, you're not going to get a lot out of it.
Right.
So the idea is you back it up a little bit, and you get a little more bounce, a little more rebound.
I tell people it's kind of like the episodes of Dukes of Hazzard. When they'd pop that car up like on 2 wheels.
Right.
They have proven that you can drive a car on 2 wheels.
Right.
But you're not going to be able to like stop at the stop sign and hang a hard right. You don't have a lot of control when you're on 2 wheels, right? It's the same thing with the fingers. If I'm using the whole hand.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, I've got all my wheels on the road.
Right.
And there's nothing that I can't do. Technique, wherever my technique is or your technique is, there's nothing I can't do when I've got the whole hand engaged.
Right.
The minute I start taking this off, I start taking away my control. And it's not that I've got not control in the sense that I'm dictating everything the stick is doing.
Right. And there's a lot of factors too.
Right.
I mean, hand size, stick length, where the fulcrum point is in the stick. So a lot of that is open to your interpretation. We're not going to sit here and tell you this is how you got to do it.
Right.
These are just two different opinions because even our grips will change.
Yeah. Well, because like for me, mine's sort of a modified German timpani kind of thing where it's a little more, most of the time it's a little more than 90 degrees.
Right.
Most of the time. And then I never really come in tight. And if I'm doing something really loud, I kind of push out a little bit.
Gotcha.
So like, and this, my whole technique is really based off of like Jim Chapin's thing of stop at the top. Where every stroke starts and ends at the top, but I do incorporate some other things like these controlled strokes.
Sure.
Where you sort of just let the wrist not be as pliable. But is there anything special about the way that you
let the stick
play?
work for you?
Yeah.
I mean, because if you're just putting all the motion into the stick, you're going to have elbow problems.
Right.
And a lot of this has been discussed on a lot of different videos.
Yeah.
We're not going into, how to hold the sticks per se. This is just our interpretation of what works for us and what we're doing. Like he was saying, he holds his wide. I actually hold mine a little closer, but I also play much smaller toms.
Yeah.
So like where my first tom is an 8, I play 8, 10, 12, 14, 14, 16,
right.
2 up, 2 down kind of a configuration. So I've really gotten into this economy of motion where it's... closer and almost like the Terry Bozzio windshield wiper thing where it's, around the kit. But so instead of me using more arm and going wider, it's less arm and more wrist and stick.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like a modified French timpani.
Almost a French timpani, except for whatever reason,
you use a little
goes out. From the old core days.
Yeah.
And I do play a lot of traditional.
Well, let's talk about that a second.
Okay, so flipping the hand over. Again, finding your fulcrum point on your stick. A lot of guys will put all of it in here. Some guys do it here. I mean, this is one of those age-old.
Oh, there's all kinds of schools of thought on this. Like the way that I've been working on it the past year and a half or so is kind of based on the idea of a handshake.
Right.
Like all of my approach to how I'm playing is all based on like how our body is built and what our natural positions are. So when you go to shake somebody's hand, the most natural thing that we do, we just instinctively kind of reach like this.
Absolutely.
So it sort of starts like that. And I used to, and I've seen other guys do this where it's kind of palm up kind of thing.
Right.
And I'm not saying my palm never goes up. For the loud stuff, you got to get up there. But the majority of the time, I've been working from this handshake grip.
Right.
Because it's the most natural thing. And especially if I'm looking at like this, which is kind of it's sort of a little bit of French in this hand.
Sure.
And the handshake grip in the left hand, that is the most natural kind of way that the sticks just
Keeping
sort of
it
fall.
all in one. Sure.
And for me, I would say that a lot of my initial motion, especially the smaller stuff, comes from that thumb. So even though my fingers like are on the top here, the thumb is really making all that happen. It's almost like I'm pushing this, like we talked about the direct drive pedals last time. This is almost like my direct drive. It's like I'm just kind of pushing down here. So that for my little stuff, the thumb's doing all that. And the exercise that I normally do to kind of work on that is I just get in that handshake grip and just work the thumb.
Right.
And I'll sit there for 20 minutes watching television. And a lot of times I use a heavy stick, like a marching stick.
Sure. Build up the endurance.
Yeah, you want to build up the endurance, get those muscles really working, and there's no substitute for just repetition.
Right.
Sometimes I'll have the metronome on, sometimes I'm thinking of a song, other times it's whatever the jingle is that's on TV, but it's just this.
Just constant movement.
Just that. You're just developing that. And for me, I don't know, but like, as I get a little larger, then I start to bring in
the other fingers.
These two fingers. Like these fingers start to pull in, and I kind of, there's a few different people, Simon Phillips, Weckel, that I kind of develop
go through
that
all the
thing.
fingers, yeah.
Oh yeah. For me, I don't go that far with it, but I do. Just like I sit and work the thumb, I'll just sit and work that action right there. So that's, other than my normal warm up stuff, aside from my regular practice time, it's just this. It's bouncing the basketball kind of thing. Is there anything that you do special that you do work on that left hand?
Same kind of thing. I try to, I guess mine is more letting go a little more.
Yeah.
Yes, on the thumb. And then if I need more power, it's kind of incorporating the molar.
Yeah. Get the little whip in there.
Yeah. So Same kind of thing. I probably use mine a little more open.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just over time. I started out learning traditional.
Right.
And the handshake theory is very good, especially if you're playing swing and lighter stuff. Keith Carlock is one who's got that great. I mean, he's so loose. The key to traditional is the looser you are, the more control you have over it, versus the tighter you are, the more tension you'll have, and it's a lot harder to play. Because you can play traditional like this all the time, but you got nothing to do with it. You can't go anywhere with it. So in this grip, I would say trying to relax as much as possible, and the looser, and just like you said, just sit there for 20 minutes at a time and just get the stick going, bounce the basketball.
And one of the interesting things, and we're primarily drum set players who have a rudimental background, so we're talking about things as they really pertain kind of to the drum set. I'm working with my son right now who's 13. He's in school band, and he's just getting into marching band. And so the kind of forms that we're looking at, especially for match grip, are a lot tighter and a lot less of that fluid motion. But a lot of that has to do with the visual aesthetic of having a line.
Trying to get 8 kids to look like they're one
exactly
player.
The same. If you're using the molar technique, whether it's the traditional grip or the match grip, if you're using molar or any variant of that, it's a lot harder to get a whole line of guys looking the same because arm length, hand size,
how you set up,
height, all that stuff really plays a large role in the end result. So if you've got a whole line of snare drummers, you need them to look very uniform. And that's the thing I'm trying to teach them is there's really not one way to do this.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors.
It's what is the application? And the thing that I found is if you take that core style that they teach the kids and you bring it over to the drum set, it kind of, to me, it sounds a little less musical.
Sure.
It sounds a little more like you're building a house. It sounds like a hammer and nail kind of thing.
Right.
This really is meant to, whether you're match grip or traditional grip, you're really trying to pull the sound out of the drum or out of the cymbal and trying to, at the same time, get a little bit of a snap on it. The core stuff is great for snap. It's got a lot of snap to it. A lot of pop.
A lot of power.
And you can get that with these more fluid ways of playing, but so much of it is about trying to get a very musical sound out of the drums as opposed to just brute force.
Yeah, absolutely.
And uniformity of...
And I would even go so far as don't be so caught up in the name of the stroke that you're using. Mm-hmm. Grab some sticks, figure it out. Whether it's matched, whether it's traditional, whether your hands are, French timpani, German, one of each, whatever's comfortable. If you're left-handed and you play the other way, there's so many factors,
Weird. That's like wearing somebody else's underwear, man. That's just... Even if it's the same size, it could be Fruit of the Loom size 38, it just feels wrong. That just kind of was weird. Anyway, okay.
The idea is get the sticks in your hands.
And do something with them.
Absolutely.
And if there's any one piece of advice to give anybody, you guys, or for us to give each other, is the more time you spend with those sticks in your hands, the more you're going to develop your muscles, the more natural it's going to feel, and the less that this is a tool and it becomes more of an extension of your hand, which is an extension of your mind. And that's ultimately where you're trying to get with this.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing is be as relaxed as you can. Don't tension up. Just, like Brian just said, if you're thinking it, you want to be able to execute it with the hands. So this is just an extension of what you're thinking. So
try it out. Check YouTube. Check Vimeo, check Facebook, anywhere where you can see videos of drummers. And not just drummers doing the right thing. Check out videos of drummers doing the wrong thing, too. You can learn just as much from someone who uses a really poor technique and gets a bad sound as you can from a great drummer. And make sure, if you're going to watch any drummers, you come back here every single week to Pedal Pusher TV, because we're going to be here.
Absolutely.
And we're going to be talking about drums.
That's it. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Oh, make sure, before I forget, if you want to support the show, because Lord knows we're working musicians, we need as much support as we can get. Go to our website, Pedal Pusher TV, and make sure you hit the Amazon.com and the Google GoDaddy. Sorry. Sorry to our GoDaddy sponsor. Our GoDaddy banners. With GoDaddy, you can get websites for $7.49 a domain. That's a bargain at any price. That's the best price I've seen anywhere. $7.49. So get your .com, your .net, your .org, your .tv. Just don't try and get any pedal pusher domains because they're all ours. That's pretty much it. Thanks so much. We'll see you guys again next week.
See you guys.
If you enjoy the show, take a moment to click the affiliate links and banner ads on our website. A portion of what you spend on our sponsors' products comes directly back to us to defray the costs of production and bandwidth. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next week. Funny, I was looking at some video of myself the other day when I was like 18.
Right.
There was like stick tricks out the ass, man.
Yeah.
Everything, even the showy stuff like the Tommy Aldridge kind of come behind the head stuff, just all the visual stuff. Oh yeah, and it's like now, please.
Everything's lower and flatter and.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because the other day I was trying to twirl my stick like as a goof because I saw somebody, I was like, and it was like, oh, that was such a mistake. Yeah.